Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mike, and this is RetroGameFix.com Serial at Night, episode number 39. And today, I am going to talk to you about some comments recently made by Microsoft's Aaron Greenberg about the future of console gaming and possibly a future without generations. But before we get to that, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. If you want to get a hold of us, questions at RetroGameFix.com, YouTube.com/RetroGameFix, Facebook.com/RetroGameFix, Twitter.com, RetroGameFix, and 678-995-5103 is the phone number. So let's get into this. When this console generation started, I had written an article for the site that really kind of talked about this specific topic, that this could be our last console generation. And really, it was around the fact that PC gaming was becoming more accessible, and the fact that gamers were starting to care more about PC-centric titles, or PC-centric metrics, statistics, and performance. And at that time, I think people thought I was a little bit crazy, but I don't think it was really that difficult to forecast. This was, as we started hearing about the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, even before these things were able to get into people's hands, people were already speculating about 1080p, 1080p 60 frames per second, 1080p 30 frames per second. All of those resolution, frame rate conversations that were usually specific to PC gaming last generation. Last generation, if you remember, 720p was great to hit, but games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, I think, were all running in 540p actually. And so when this generation launched, and even 1080p wasn't always guaranteed, I thought it was a little bit embarrassing, just because even 3 years ago, 1080p was the standard. But these consoles, I think they learned from the past. They came out, regardless of which one's more powerful than the other, they still came out a bit underpowered. And I think now that they've been out a while and people have been better at optimizing games, sure, we're getting 1080p 30 pretty consistently. Xbox One's a little bit different of a story. But my thought was always, if you're on console, I just, certainly you want your games to look as good as they can. I get that. But I always thought that, like, on console, I guess for me specifically, I guess I never really cared about the frame rate or resolution. If I cared, I would play games on PC, which I do. I do play games on PC. I love my PC. But on console, I just never thought it was really a fair conversation to have, just because that wasn't what consoles were ever designed to do. It wasn't supposed to be cutting edge. The cutting edge has always been saved for PC. And you have to pay for it. I mean, it's significantly more expensive. But that said, the console generation kicked off, and people would go back and forth about the frame rate and resolution. It was always a big thing that Xbox One was 900p a lot of times, sometimes even as low as 720, and the PlayStation was consistently hitting 1080p. So gamers continue to complain about this, and maybe it was a vocal minority. It might have been, but it was always on the internet. Huge fanboy flame wars going on, back and forth. And fast forward 3 years, and both Sony and Microsoft are going to release more powerful console iterations that solves for that problem with Xbox Scorpio and PlayStation Neo, code names at this point. Now that's pissing people off. Well, what about us that have the old versions? Well, they're saying so far that you're still going to get to play the games, which, in general means the older consoles are going to have a lower frame rate, lower resolution. The newer consoles are going to have a better frame rate, better resolution. It's really all about that visual fidelity. Now, if they continue to follow that, where they have to work on both moving forward, I think we're going to see these are significant jumps. So we're going to see a time where really that's all you're getting is just better visual fidelity. Because reportedly, they're going to be jumping from roughly 1.25 teraflops computing power. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but to PlayStation Neo or Xbox Scorpio being anywhere from 4.5 to 6 teraflops of computing power. So that's a significant jump. Only 3 years after the fact. So, people, how's it going to work? Well, it's going to work a lot like PC. Games will scale and change resolution based on what you're playing on. Now, moving forward, I don't think you're going to see jumps like that. If they start dumping these things, I wouldn't be surprised to see new consoles every 2 years with probably approximately a 30 to maybe 50% jump in power every couple years. 30% I think feels about right. I mean, in graphics cards, we generally see that jump once a year. If you go apples to apples, 980 to 1080, that was a bigger jump. But if it was, a 700 series card to the 900 series card equivalent, it's 35%, stuff like that. So anyway, what sparked this conversation was Aaron Greenberg in an interview with Engadget came out and he said specifically, he was asked, let me just pull this up here. The Xbox platform has moved forward. So this, actually, let me even source this a little bit better. So this was an interview with Engadget and with Aaron Soporis, I believe, at Aaron LS Social on Twitter. And Aaron asked, let me just find it again here. Now that I source that. The Xbox platform. Sorry about that. The Xbox platform has moved forward to have such regular updates and new features coming all the time. It seems like hardware is going the same way. There was a very short gap between the Xbox One and the Xbox One S, and we're probably talking an even shorter gap before Project Scorpio. Do you see a future of console upgrades continuously happening? Is this the last console generation? To which Aaron Greenberg responds, I think it is. For us, we think the future is without console generations. We think that the ability to build a library, a community, to be able to iterate with hardware, we're making a pretty big bet on that with Project Scorpio. We're basically saying this isn't a new generation. Everything you have continues forward and it works. We think of this as a family of devices, but we'll see. We're going to learn from this. We're going to see how that goes. So far, I'd say based on reaction, there appears to be a lot of demand and interest around Project Scorpio, and we think it's going to be a pretty big success. If the games and content deliver, which I think they will do, I think it will change the way we look, or I think it'll change the way we think about the future of console gaming. I agree with them. Regardless if you're on board with this iterative hardware, they have to try it, and especially where Microsoft specifically is sitting, they have Windows 10 right now, which has 300 million plus installs. Certainly not everybody in those 300 million are gamers, but they would be crazy not to try to leverage that install base. So they have PC taken care of. That's where we're seeing these cross-platform releases of all the Microsoft published titles. I will probably play most of my Xbox One games on PC. I don't even think I'll get a Project Scorpio. And from the sounds of it, Microsoft doesn't care as long as I'm playing in the Xbox ecosystem and that Xbox community that they're talking about. Second, yeah, the Xbox Scorpio is iterative. And with how fast tech is moving, you can't sit on one piece of hardware for 7 years. You just can't. We're seeing people upgrading their phones every year. People upgrading TVs maybe every couple years. There's a constant cycle of upgrades that people are are in. And yeah, I understand. You can say, well, phone is always in my pocket. It's more than just an entertainment piece for me. I completely understand it's apples to oranges. But as far as hardware iterations go and the speed of the market, it's not too far off, right? Demands continue to increase for the technology devices, electronic devices that we use. Video games are no different. And moving forward, this is going to be it. In addition, you can also bring up the physical versus digital media conversation, right? We've seen it. No Man's Sky just came out. The on-disc version of that game was unfinished. There's no reason to own the disc other than from a trade-in value standpoint, or collecting, I suppose. But you still need to be connected to the internet. You still need to download gigs of patch data. Everything is constantly being iterated upon, including the games. And the hardware is no different. So, I understand some reluctance for people to not want to adopt. And in a way, it kind of feels like, it's kind of being forced upon the consumer. But at the same time, the consumer has come out, and whether they've directly asked for it or not, this is what they've asked for. If you're going to complain about graphics and visual fidelity and resolutions and frame rates while you're console gaming, in order to meet those demands, they're going to have to release consoles more than every 6 years, right? And I mean, as far as complaining about that as a console gamer, I mean, look, PCs, they're expensive. My build's probably a couple grand at this point. You say, okay, it's a Ferrari of gaming. Consoles, still nice, $400. It's kind of the Camry of gaming, right? Nice car, does what it needs to do. I drive a Camry, right? I don't have a Ferrari. But I don't complain about my Camry because it's not a Ferrari. I enjoy my Camry because it's a Camry, and it does what it's supposed to do. I don't complain that it can't do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. I don't complain that its top speed isn't 200 miles per hour because that's not what it's made to do. And I knew that going in, right? Same with consoles and PC. Cutting edge tech costs money, right? If you go in and get a PS4 or an Xbox One, and it's not the Ferrari, well, you knew it wasn't, right? So I just don't understand that argument about resolutions and frame rates. And quite honestly, it doesn't always impact the gaming experience. Certainly it can, right? Obviously frame rates are super important. I think frame rate's probably more important in almost all cases other than resolution. But I just don't see how it's a surprise. And I think it's fine. I'm excited for it, right? You're not required to upgrade. If you want to upgrade and have the disposable income to do so, go ahead if that's where you want to spend your money. If you can't, you're still going to get great games and great experiences. That said, this does open up the door to the conversation of, well, I do have the money, and I always want the latest, greatest. Well, if you want the latest, greatest, you're looking at $400 probably every 2 to 3 years moving forward. And out of the gate, $40, $60 a game, depending on when they hit sales. Now you're starting to get in the conversation. Does it make more financial sense to build a PC? Especially now that it's easier to build high-end PCs, and they're certainly smaller, and they're easier to get in the living room. 10 years ago, it wasn't as easy to get your PCs in your living room. Now, HDMI cable out, DisplayPort out, whatever it might be, to your HD TV, you're good to go. You can run a long cable. You can run Steam Link if you want to do it through your network, which works fine. I've used it quite a few times. It's going to be more money up front. You probably, I would still budget $1,200 at the very least for a nice PC if you want to get, an SSD, even like just a 1070, maybe two 1070s, a 1080, whatever that might be. But yeah, it's more expensive up front, but then your ongoing maintenance, maybe again, and it's still going to be more expensive than console gaming, but it would still be the $400 every few years, except you're on the cutting edge. You are the cutting edge of gaming at that point, and visual fidelity if you choose to build that. And so you're certainly going to always be more powerful than the current generation of consoles. And so I think that's something people are thinking about. And that's why I think this move for Microsoft to publish all of their games to PC through Windows 10, I think that's a great idea. Hey, I've already got this PC, or I'm building a PC. I don't have a need for an Xbox. I want the best visuals. Here's Forza Horizon 3. Here's Quantum Break. Here's whatever new Halo, Gears of War. Get those things on PC. They don't make a lot of money on the hardware anyway. Why not get the games where the gamers are, right? The product is really the games at this point. And if people are on PC, people are on Xbox, that's a good family of products. And Sony's no different. Look, Sony wants to stay in front of it too. Sony's in a little bit of a position because they don't have a 300 million plus install base on an operating system. But Sony's no different. They want to stay in front of it too. They know that, I think when these consoles were released, they released them under spec to get the prices down because they were unsure about the future of console gaming 3 years ago. I know it was a concern at that point. People were already saying, hey, this console's over. The mobile phone market is picked up. Our handheld's over. People are just can go to PCs now. It's accessible. And there was a lot of uncertainty around the future of consoles. And all of a sudden, they went gangbusters out of the gate. PS4 is at 40 million plus units right now. Microsoft's, the Xbox One's at 20 plus million units. That's crazy numbers. And now that they're like, wow, there's gamers are gamers, but they're going, hey, we're not going to sit on these things for 7 years anymore. Tech's moving too fast. We got to get in front of it. So I think Sony and Microsoft have the right idea. They're kind of going over different segments of the market right now. I think Microsoft is kind of doing the, butterfly net approach of saying, let's get a family of products out there that go from low end to high end, up through the PC, where Sony's saying, hey, we are the console we're dominating consoles right now, and we're going to continue to iterate and give you the best hardware, and we're going to give you the best games. Sony's been real strong this generation as far as third-party, indie support, first-party support. And so, and I hate to always go back to this, but man, it is great to be gaming right now. It really is. There is, it's great to be gaming. There's a lot of options. There's going to be more options moving forward. And they're giving the consumer choice, right? And I think when the consumer is given choice, everybody wins. Certainly they're out to make money, and certainly they're out to compete. But with that, the consumer is getting the opportunity to choose what product is best for them and move on that. For me, it's probably going to be PC, and then I'll probably get a PlayStation Neo. I don't think I'll get an Xbox Scorpio. But, let's see where it goes. I think it's interesting. I think it's a fun time. And that's it. So, again, episode number 39, the Serial at Night podcast. And see ya.